Reaction to Tuesday's elections in other parts of the country, and DCFS still looking for the numbers on how many children are missing every year. It is Illinois in Focus Daily on this Thursday. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of the Center Square. You can go check out the Illinois page where my team and I put together stories impacting you, the taxpayers. So go get those headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. But it's not just the Illinois page. You've got the national page as well, including investigative reporting. Our team at the Center Square looking at congressional perks and just how much all that's costing taxpayers. So you can go read up on that, luxury cars, food expenses, all kinds of things. But back to the Illinois page, check that out because you'll be able to see video of the news that's popping off, including headlines we're going to be discussing today, like Illinois' Child Welfare Agency still yet to locate the documents showing the number of missing children. And this, of course, is a pending FOIA request that the Center Square has with the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, so we'll have to talk about that. So 2 segments today. And again, programming note, I am off tomorrow. So today's actually my Friday, even though it's Thursday. But here live with you this morning, just after 8 o'clock, we go live when we can at 8 o'clock in the morning here for the Center Square on YouTube to bring you Illinois in Focus Daily. But after a marathon midnight run session that went into the wee hours of the morning on Halloween, I kind of knew that it was going to be a tough one. So well in advance, I had requested to take a week off. So I'm off tomorrow, and I'm off all of next week. Going to recharge my batteries and come back and gear up for not just the end of the year stuff where we're going to have to review a whole bunch of laws that are going to be taking effect January 1st. But we also have to gear up and prepare for the March primary season, which we've got petitions have been filed for governor, for U.S. Senate, for seats in Congress, for seats at the State House, and all of these statewide candidates like comptroller and treasurer and attorney general. So we have to really get into some of that as well. So going to reset myself, unplug for a bit, all of next week, starting tomorrow. So again, I wanted to just get that back out in front of you that Illinois in Focus Daily will come back, I promise, after next week. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And something else I want to tell you about really quick here. The Center Square, we continue to grow and evolve. And if you go to thecentersquare.com, again, the Illinois page where I'm the editor, you can click on newsletter and get headlines in your inbox. But there's something else I want to show you. This is clips.thecentersquare.com. Clips.thecentersquare.com. Here, you can find news clips from what's going on in Congress, Senate hearings, House hearings, some of the debates. Now, these are really long hearings, and our team at the Center Square goes through and clips out some of the most salient stuff. You can also find clips from the White House, President Donald Trump, and even some White House press briefings. You might see in here from time to time clips pop up from Governor J.B. Pritzker or Governor Ron DeSantis or Governor Gavin Newsom and so on, and even clips from the president on Air Force One. So go and get subscribed there as well. You'll get a digest of the clips that are being put together from the previous day. And I tell you, I generate a lot of clips from here in Illinois, but I also go to clips.thecentersquare.com to find some of the most salient stuff. So make sure you do that as well. All right. It is Illinois in Focus Daily, powered by the Center Square. Be sure to stay with us each and every weekday morning. But again, programming note, I'm off all next week starting tomorrow. All right. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Stay tuned. Couple of segments coming up.
When I came in office, for example, the Department of Children and Family Services was in terrible shape, and we had to invest in it. It took us several years to hire up and make sure we're delivering what people really need. But thank goodness we've made enormous improvements in DCFS and across state government, which have been hollowed out by my Republican predecessor, who left us in a shambles.
My goodness, these are kids. I mean, like, job one ought to be getting DCFS functional as an agency. And yet, continuously for 6 years of Governor Pritzker, we just see, sort of this kind of willful indifference of, and antipathy towards, sound management, good, good administrative practice. Time and again, they get dinged on audits, but it all starts at the top.
It's State Senator Chapin Rose. Before that, Governor J.B. Pritzker talking about the state's child welfare agency. In the headline at thecentersquare.com, Illinois DCFS can't locate documents showing number of missing children. It's Illinois in Focus Daily on this Thursday. Good morning. I'm Greg Bishop. You can subscribe to Illinois in Focus and wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Find clips from Illinois and from across the country here on YouTube and beyond. Get more at thecentersquare.com. So we have this story where veto session last week, starting off, we published a story about how the number of missing children that were in the care of the Department of Children and Family Services spiked in 2023 to 2024 from 16 to 166. That's 1,000% increase. And those documents obtained by a State House candidate, Bailey Templeton. So I put a FOIA request in on October 21st for the Center Square to get those public records showing that the number of children missing that were in care of DCFS spiked. DCFS reached out, communicating back and forth, saying that the numbers were, not correct, or the terminology they used in the story for on the record, they said were not completely accurate. So we're still waiting, though, all right, because FOIA requests are supposed to be responded to within 5 days. They do have the option of extending it another 5 days, but it's been now beyond that extra 5-day point, and you have the department's Freedom of Information officer saying that they're still looking for him. Here you can see the quote, the response to my FOIA request. The officer said, once the documents are located, assuming they exist, the FOIA office will review and release records as appropriate. So they can't find the documents to show that they can't find missing children with the Department of Children and Family Services. I talked with State Senator Chapin Rose. He is a Republican from Central Illinois, and he's also on the Legislative Audit Commission. It's a truly bipartisan committee that looks at state agencies and audits of state agencies. And I asked him about, hey, is it important for the DCFS to get this right?
No, continually, DCFS is literally the most important agency in our state, and yet continually under Governor Pritzker, it's the worst run agency. It's had director after director after director. Then suddenly you get one guy in ends up getting hauled into court, a dozen times on orders to show cause by various judges in Illinois, and then Pritzker stands by the guy. I mean, before finally firing him. I mean, it's just, when you are this poorly managed, this poorly run, it should shock no one that you've had this kind of a run-up. But my goodness, these are kids. I mean, like, job one ought to be getting DCFS functional as an agency. And yet, continuously for 6 years of Governor Pritzker, we just see, sort of this kind of willful indifference of, and antipathy towards, sound management, good, good administrative practice. Time and again, they get dinged on audits, but it all starts at the top. And if you're not going to put someone in, install someone in the agency that A, knows what they're doing, B, has the credibility to do it, and then stand by them, or worse, stand by the guy that kept getting hauled into court with all kinds of rule to show causes from judges across Illinois, stand by that guy for years when he clearly should have been fired, this is where you end up. And again, I just think it's like the rest of the, Pritzker administrative bureaucracy. It's just nothing works. He doesn't put people in charge of these agencies that really know what they're doing or know how to do it.
So the senator there talking about the management of state agencies in general, and in particular, he says the most important one, the Department of Children and Family Services. I mean, you've got audits showing the Department of Children and Family Services unable to produce certain documents, even with the missing children story. If you go back to that story we published on the 27th, I think actually I published on the 26th, about the story then was they're going to update the missing children numbers. And here we are more than a week later, and they still haven't updated the documents that I requested through FOIA to show how many missing children there are, youth in care, that are missing. Governor J.B. Pritzker, unrelated to the questions about the agency's management and the inability to get those numbers. And again, I'm not looking for communications back and forth in emails and communications back and forth in texts. I'm looking for just a spreadsheet that they may have of how many children are missing from 2019 to 2025 on an annual basis. But Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday, unrelated, he talked about how he's turned around DCFS.
No.
Here's the governor from yesterday at an unrelated event.
When I came in office, for example, the Department of Children and Family Services was in terrible shape. And we had to invest in it. It took us several years to hire up and make sure we're delivering what people really need. But thank goodness we've made enormous improvements in DCFS and across state government, which have been hollowed out by my Republican predecessor, who left us in a shambles.
Now, if you look at the history here, Governor J.B. Pritzker coming into office in 2019. Go to the story at thecentersquare.com. Since Pritzker took office, there have been numerous lawsuits against the agency and 3 different directors. The state budget has $2.5 billion from taxpayers going to the agency, an increase of $1.2 billion since fiscal year 2019. So, yeah, the governor has put a lot more money into it, but are the problems still persistent? Again, Chapin Rose on the Legislative Audit Commission says the Audit Commission can do a lot for transparency, but they're limited.
The frustrating thing about the Audit Commission is, we audit, which by its very denotative sense of the word is always after the fact, right? So our audits come in, after whatever action occurred. But it is an opportunity to put the spotlight, on an agency, put a spotlight on a process, on a procedure, on a director, and let the rest of Illinois know what's working and what isn't working. And so, over time, you can see agencies start to improve behavior. But again, it's a long slog, but it starts at the top. And if you're not going to appoint credible people to run these agencies, and again, I would assert that DCFS, dealing with children, would literally be the most important agency to get it right at. And yet you've got, 5 years now of Pritzker, and it's just been a mess. It's been a mess his entire tenure as governor.
So I got another thing that I want to touch on here briefly about DCFS, because I had another source, and we're going to have to delve more into this particular angle of the DCFS story. But one source told me that, hey, there's somebody making almost $500,000 annually at DCFS, an employee, not the director. And I went to the comptroller's database, and you can follow along here. If you search Illinois Comptroller Salary Database, you'll be able to find the area where you can search for the comptroller's data that they keep on employees and the salaries. Because again, you're the taxpayer. Here we are, not vendor payments. Let's get state employee data and look up. All right, we'll do this search. Salary database. State employee. Let's do that. And voila. All right. So if you get to salary database, you'll be able to change, let's just say 2024. All right. We'll pick agency, children, and search. Now you'll get, obviously it's sorted by alphabet, I believe, but you can change the rate of pay, and then it will essentially change it to year-to-date gross. Let's do year-to-date gross. Should have pulled this up beforehand. So we want to do it from ascending to descending, and you can see here there are several state employees within the Department of Children and Family Services making almost $400,000 in 2024. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that made over $300,000. And then I think I counted before you had 40 some odd people making over $200,000 at the Department of Children and Family Services. What is happening there? It's a lot of money, and it's more than what the department director makes. So is this another issue that is it an issue of overtime? Is it an issue of them, purposefully not getting more people on board so that you can have a host of people making $300,000 a year in overtime costs? What's going on here? Rose, I asked him about that, and he said, listen, DCFS isn't the only agency this is happening at. He said it's pervasive elsewhere as well.
Again, this all lands at Governor Pritzker's feet. As he runs for president, he literally cares nothing about the actual ship of state. Is our train on the tracks? Is our train off the tracks? Is our train going off the tracks, right? The lights turn on when you flip the switch. None of that is working under his leadership. And by the way, you can take what you just said and apply that to just about every agency in the state.
So I mean, is it overtime you're thinking, or is it just
there's clear overtime issues, and that's been ongoing with CMS. You'll see that rear up at Department of Corrections, for example, quite a bit. Again, it's largely administrative. Some of it has been budgetary, but even I would point out, even when agencies come to us, as has both DCFS and DOC, and said, hey, we need budget amendments to help address staffing, we've given them those amendments, and yet the overtime continues to be a black eye. So, which tells me, once again, this is a management issue. It's a management issue that lands at Governor Pritzker's feet for not appointing directors and secretaries of these different departments and agencies that A, know what they're doing, and B, have the competency to put it into place.
Again, that's State Senator Chapin Rose answering some of my questions last week about an ongoing story with DCFS. So we're still waiting for the numbers. Again, DCFS FOIA officer said that they're still working to locate the numbers of how many missing kids there are annually, even though they already put out a chart to somebody else through the Freedom of Information. All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning here for the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop. Get headlines at thecentersquare.com. Programming note again, I'm off Friday and all of next week. Strap in, final segment here.
And so I'm proud. I'm kind of happy, the people of the United States kind of rose up yesterday and showed that we're not going to stand for it. And I think it bodes well for the 26 elections when we Democrats need desperately to win one or the other or both houses of Congress.
After last night's results, the decision facing all Americans could not be more clear. We have a choice between communism and common sense. Does that make sense to you? Common sense. It's common sense or communism.
It's Governor J.B. Pritzker and President Donald Trump reacting to Tuesday's elections in other parts of the country that went to Democrats. And we didn't have elections here in Illinois. Our next election isn't until the March primary, which we've got lots to talk about between now and then for all kinds of races from U.S. Senate to Congress to State House. But you also, have the political prognosticators saying, hey, government shutdown's looking bad for Republicans. Democrats are going to sweep in Tuesday's elections in New York and Virginia and elsewhere throughout the country. And looks like at least the prognosticators may have been onto something. But it's led President Donald Trump to essentially say, listen, the government shutdown is hurting us, not just politically, but it's hurting the country. Senate Republicans end the filibuster. So that's what we're talking about today. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Final segment for the live show today, which I want to remind people I'm off tomorrow. And then I'm off all of next week, but we will be back after next week for more live Illinois in Focus Daily. So like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Go to thecentersquare.com where you can get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. Just go to, again, thecentersquare.com. Click newsletter, and you can sign up for that. But also, I want to point you to another website, clips.thecentersquare.com, where you can find news clips, some of which we air here with Illinois in Focus Daily. So be sure to check that out as well, and you can subscribe and get a daily digest there. All right, so the elections. You had Democrats sweep. Governor J.B. Pritzker held 3 events unrelated yesterday, but in one of them later in the day, he talked about the election outcome after being asked during Q&A.
First of all, what an incredible win for Democrats. Maybe there were people more optimistic than I was. I was hopeful, but I did not think that that Democrats could win the governorship in Virginia by 15 percentage points in a purple state. I didn't think that after all the polls that happened in New Jersey that showed that was going to be a real close race, that Mikey Sherrill was going to win the governorship by 13 points. And I think, and those are just 2 examples, but I can give you others, like the public utilities commissioners, 2 of them elected in Georgia. I know people here may not have paid attention to it, but I met those folks. And by the way, the 2 Democrats of Republican state, those 2 Democrats that ran for those 2 seats won by 20 percentage points. So something happened yesterday that is, I think, remarkable. And I think it was a reaction, in part, to what's happening from Washington, D.C., and what's the kind of oppression that's being put down on the states, both economically and otherwise. People's rights are being taken away. People's programs that they rely upon are being taken away. As you know, right now, what are we at, November 5th today? Well, that's 5 days after they stopped providing SNAP benefits, food benefits to people who really need it. We have 1.9 million people in the state of Illinois who get some measure of SNAP benefits. Some people, this is the only thing they have to pay for food, and it's all gone away. And worse than that is that we went to court. We got a court to rule that they needed to use the emergency funds to restore SNAP benefits, and you know what the Trump administration did? They said, yeah, we're only going to provide 50% of the money that's necessary. And by the way, that doesn't mean that everybody who is getting it is now getting 50% of what they're getting, which would be bad enough. No, we're also going to change the eligibility for people. So some people are going to get 0, and some people will get half of what they were getting before. And honestly, it's like, if this is all you had and you're getting 50% of it, how are you going to survive? So we're doing everything we can at the state level to try to supplement that. But I think the reaction yesterday in the elections was about people understanding that government does play an important role, and that Donald Trump is acting like the leader of an authoritarian regime who does not care about the people that he is supposed to be representing and leading. And so I'm proud. I'm kind of happy. The people of the United States kind of rose up yesterday and showed that we're not going to stand for it. And I think it bodes well for the 26 elections when we Democrats need desperately to win one or the other or both houses of Congress.
So again, Pritzker praising the outcome of the election Tuesday in other parts of the country. President Donald Trump having a different reaction yesterday.
After last night's results, the decision facing all Americans could not be more clear. We have a choice between communism and common sense. Does that make sense to you? Common sense. It's common sense or communism. And you take a look back 1,000 years, it hasn't worked. If it worked, we'd be using it, I guess, but it hasn't worked. Our opponents are offering an economic nightmare. We're delivering an economic miracle. We have delivered in 9 months. This is the biggest investment of funds in a country in history by many times.
So the president heralding what he says is his economic accomplishments during his first 9 months of his second non-consecutive term. But all kinds of things that people are going to be thinking about after especially the election in New York City with a Democrat socialist getting elected mayor and Governor J.B. Pritzker reacting to not just that, but also the idea of government-run grocery stores. The governor was at a grocery store in Venice, Illinois, that got $2 million of taxpayer funds to help build the grocery store. It's not going to be state-run, but state taxpayers are really starting the engine there for that grocery store. Here's the governor kind of distinguishing between that concept of using tax dollars granting to a private business versus a government just running the place.
So what we're doing is lowering the amount of risk and making sure, look, these things are better run if they're run by private companies. I've always believed that government isn't always the best option if there's a private sector option. And so what we're trying to do is reduce the risk, bring the private sector in and make it available to the people who live here in Venice. I don't disagree with you that sometimes government doesn't do it as well as the private sector, but I also believe that government has to do some things to help the private sector be successful. For example, private sector doesn't build your roads. I'm a capitalist. I'm somebody who was in business before I became governor. I'm not a believer that government should do everything, but there are some things government has to do.
And one thing government does do is draw maps for congressional seats. Another outcome of the election yesterday in California, voters approved allowing for their congressional maps to change ahead of the 2026 election. This comes after Texas changed their congressional maps mid-cycle. You have Indiana looking at it, possibly Missouri. There's several other states that are looking at this, and elections are a year away. So in Illinois, it makes things kind of weird if you're going to change the maps because people already filed their petitions within the jurisdictions that the legislature approved back in 2021 that got an F grade for gerrymandering. Here's Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday in reaction to California approving their map change, and could Illinois be next?
We've been looking at pairing with different states because if they're we don't think that this is a good idea. The redistricting across the country, not a good idea. But unfortunately, Donald Trump is trying to cheat. He thinks that redistricting mid-decade is okay. So he called up and told the governor of Texas that he ought to do it for him. And he went ahead and did it. That's why California had to. So we're watching what Indiana does. We may have to react to that. It's certainly something that people have considered here and the legislature has considered here. But we'll have to see what happens.
And if Democrats get control of Congress, Republicans say they'll pack the U.S. Supreme Court. They'll create Puerto Rico a state and Washington, D.C. a state. While you've got people in Illinois that have been pushing to split the state into two and create a new state for New Illinois. So the governor obviously is looking at the politics of this, and he's encouraging Democrats to do more. But President Donald Trump, of course, has a lot to say about the election as well, and even wanting to push to end the filibuster in the U.S. Senate, that 60-vote threshold to get over certain bills, because he says that Republicans have the best ideas for policy to help the economy grow and to spur on investments in the United States and public safety and foreign policy and so on. And he says the Democrats are just ardently opposed to Trump and will block everything that comes through. Here's Trump talking a bit about the election results and more about the politics as well.
But the communists, Marxists, socialists, and globalists had their chance, and they delivered nothing but disaster. And now let's see how a communist does in New York. We're going to see how that works out. And we'll help them. We'll help them. We want New York to be successful. We'll help them a little bit, maybe. For all of these failed and discredited, really discredited, if you think, ideologies of the past, their day is over, their grip is broken, and their time is absolutely done. The golden age of America has begun, and we are just getting started.
He went on to talk about the difference between the Democrats and the Republican parties.
But the communists, Marxists, socialists, and globalists had their chance, and day by day we're making America affordable again. It's going to be affordable again at a really record pace. And, you know, other people are going to take credit. All the mayors and all the governors, they're going to say what a great job. They didn't do a damn thing. Yet as we speak, the Democrats in Congress are trying to put all of this progress at risk and drag us back to the Biden policies of soaring prices, crushing energy costs, massive spending, open borders. Let the world come into our country from prisons and from mental institutions. Let them pour in. And rampant inflation. That's what Biden gave us, all of those things. With the reckless Democrat shutdown, virtually every Democrat in Congress has voted to hold the American people hostage in an effort to extort hundreds of billions of dollars in new spending.
So Trump also at a separate event, and he's talked about this in the past few weeks here, especially as the government shutdown continues. He wants Republicans in the U.S. Senate to end that filibuster. Now, the filibuster, people support it, saying it's a real check against bad ideas getting through both chambers of Congress. And keep in mind, I mean, the Senate, the way it's set up, every state gets 2 U.S. senators. By design, small states have 2 U.S. senators. The largest states have 2 U.S. senators. Really kind of helps level the playing field for this constitutional republic that we have. It's not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. So you've got the U.S. Senate as a further stopgap from just simple majorities. They have the filibuster to allow for 60 vote thresholds in the 100 body chamber. So President Donald Trump, seeing that Democrats are, not only do they have a history of impeaching the president twice in his previous term, you also had him being indicted a whole bunch and even being convicted in New York City. And a whole host of other things, just, the spying that happened on the Trump administration, the Russia collusion narrative that Democrats promulgated through the media using, U.S. Department of Justice infrastructure to do that. All of those things, Trump's Republicans, you're not going to be able to get Democrats to break through. So you have to end the filibuster to do things like voter ID nationwide, to do things like economic policy. He says that Republicans need to get across the finish line to grow the economy. So President Donald Trump is actively lobbying for Republicans in the U.S. Senate to end the filibuster.
They're going to make D.C. a state, and they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. So now they pick up 2 states. They pick up 4 senators, okay? You think you have problems? They're going to do all of the things. They're going to pick up electoral votes. It's going to be a very, very bad situation. And it's done. It's done. As soon as they attain power. Now, if we do what I'm saying, they'll most likely never attain power, because we will have passed every single thing that you can imagine that it's good and all good for the country. And there'll be no reason to. If we don't do that, people will say they're not doing much and they're in power.
So again, the president saying, if Republicans don't end the filibuster now and open the government and pass voter ID and a whole host of other things, then Democrats are going to take power in the 2026 midterm elections, and they're going to end the filibuster and pack the courts, create new states, essentially water down the electoral college, according to Republicans. So a lot at play. And we'll be here to watch all of it, as Illinois being right in the middle of the country, and how Illinois might be a prognostication for what Democrats in Congress may want to do. So it's right here, Illinois in Focus Daily. Continue with the headlines at thecentersquare.com. Get the newsletter by signing up. And if you've got a few bucks laying around, you can donate as well. We're a nonprofit newswire service, so we definitely can use those donations. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. All right, that's all I got for you guys. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking forward to taking the day off tomorrow and take it off all of next week. It's much needed time off. I'm going to unplug as much as I can. Gosh, I think the only thing that would take me out of my vacation mode is if somehow the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals issues a ruling on the gun ban in Illinois. I'll look at that. I may pull that up on the docket and just refresh during my vacation just to see if it happens. I never really truly can unplug, but that's just kind of, it's coursing through my veins. Let's just put it that way. All right. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy all of next week. I greatly appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning, but we're off all next week with Illinois in Focus. But stay tuned because we still got the weekend edition. Jim Talamonte and I are going to record that, and we'll bring that to you. But also, you got the best of this weekend, so be sure to subscribe to the Center Square here on YouTube. It's Illinois in Focus Daily.